Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. I'm your host, Clayton Fletcher, in fabulous Las Vegas, trying to recreate the old days of the TPE podcast. You guys remember summers in Las Vegas, the TPE house. It was kind of like a frat party atmosphere. There were people drinking and betting each other crazy props, doing keg stands, strippers showing their boobs, all kinds of craziness. Well, this time we got three guys on a couch. It's a little different, but at least I'm not alone, and that's always a positive. I am joined by the legendary owner and founder and head grand poobah of Tournament Poker Edge itself, the one and only Killingbird, Derek Tenbusch. Say hello, Derek.
What's up, TPE Nation?
TPE Nation, we are in the flesh, but we're not alone. We also have another TPE member, a TPE pro. He's a very accomplished player. He's been, doing big things here at the World Series of Poker, and you guys know he's not Asian. His name is Dylan Tomassie. Dylan, how you been?
Good. I'm good. Thank you for having me. A little surprise here, I guess, for you guys.
Derek and I were going to record, and we ran into Dylan, and we're like, hey, man, why don't you come and record with us? It'll be fun. We'll try to, create the old days, the atmosphere, the party scene. So we're having a beer, and we're going to talk shop a little bit. We also have one more person in the room. It is Dylan's girlfriend. She does not want to be recorded, but she did say that if anything really sparks her creativity and she wants to join us, we left that door open. But as of now, she's sitting about as far away from me as humanly possible. So we'll see.
Supervising, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like she's looking over my shoulder. If I say anything wrong, I'm fired. I can get fired by Dylan's girlfriend. So,
by the way, we actually are on a couch. There's a couch here.
Yes, it's like a casting couch.
Basically.
And Clayton is the casting director, so this is about to get weird.
We are on the couch.
Yeah, they're hoping I ask them to make out. All right, Derek, you go first. When did you get here? How's it going so far?
So I got here on Saturday night, which was 2 nights ago.
Yeah, as we record this on Monday, the 15th of November.
Yeah, it was interesting because I made a concerted effort to come into Vegas late because I thought, I can see how the whole COVID thing shakes out. I'll have plenty of time, in case it gets shut down or canceled or whatever. Or if I just don't feel comfortable coming, I won't come. And everything was going super smooth. So I was like, all right, this looks like a good time to go out and play a few events.
Yeah, there's been hardly any COVID news, really. I mean, I think a couple of people had to miss something, but nothing major, really.
Yeah, basically until yesterday.
Yeah.
And then there was some people came out and said, I tested positive. And it seems like it's all kind of centered on the main event. It's very, it's kind of selective, though, right? There's 3 or 4 people I follow who said they got it. So it is what it is. I think we all knew kind of what we were walking into.
No one expected there to be 0 positive tests, did they? That would be ridiculous.
No, yeah, I completely agree. For sure there was going to be positive tests. The only question was, were people going to say it publicly that they got it,
Yeah, it's kind of weird because one lady came out and said she had COVID, and then somebody was like, well, what's the difference between the main event and the 888, for example, where there's thousands of players in that? Why does it matter? What's the difference? And I don't know if she came out because it was the main, if that was a bigger deal for her, but essentially they're the same tournament, right?
What, she's trying to get her buy-in back or something? What's the angle?
Yeah, I think it was probably just, it might have just been timing. Maybe things snowballed to a point where enough people felt bad and tested positive that they finally said they tested positive. Maybe it just took this long. But it could have just been some clout chasing too. I don't know.
And everyone here is vaccinated, right? You can't even walk into the poker area without proving that you're vaccinated, unless of course you're working for the WSOP, and then all bets are off. Yeah, the dealers didn't have to get vaccinated, and that's another story that we don't necessarily have to get into. But yeah, bottom line, if you're vaccinated and you do happen to have what they call a breakout case, I'm not a doctor, but I've read about this. If you test positive, even though you were vaccinated, which ostensibly anyone who was playing here at the Rio was, usually if you have any symptoms at all, they're pretty minor, and like you're almost definitely not going to die. Like 99% of all COVID deaths are among unvaccinated people. So I don't think that anyone's goal was to make sure that no one gets sick during the WSOP. People get sick every year. Remember the year they had Legionnaire's disease? Yeah. Instead of the Millionaire Maker, we had a Legionnaire Maker that year. It wasn't fun.
I'm pretty sure this room had Legionnaire's disease in it. Everything in the Masquerade Tower was infected.
Yeah, I mean, we're here at the Rio All Suites Hotel, Resort, Casino, and Spa, and it is so fabulous. I mean, this place, I'm going to miss it. I mean, I know it's a dinosaur. I know it's dated. I know that like they've never updated anything, including that awful couch you guys are sitting on. But I don't know. It's like it's going to be different next year.
Yeah, I have yet to see the resort part of this place or the spa part of this place. I've only seen the casino and the hotel.
Yeah, well, the pool is closed, so don't even try.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think everybody came out here with an expected amount of risk, you know, and all you can do is try to be personally responsible and do the best that you can in this current situation. And, you know, I'm sure there'll be a bunch of infighting on Twitter about vaccines and about COVID and stuff like that. But the reality is everybody who came here knew what they were kind of walking into. So
yeah, and what they're walking into is a room filled with vaccinated opponents who may or may not still be able to transmit the disease, but you're not going to die from playing in the World Series of Poker. A very, very small chance of that. So to me, that was what convinced me to come, was when they actually said that you have to be vaccinated. So I thought that was good. As Dylan is asking the girlfriend to refill his beverage. So yeah, if you don't want to talk on the podcast, can you at least pretend you're a waitress?
One thing I did want to say about what that lady that spoke up on Twitter about being testing positive for COVID was, she got like praised on Twitter for speaking up about it, like for saying like, hey, I tested positive, you should go get tested too. Like she didn't get like, nobody like like berated her or anything like that. They were all happy like that she said something and like, hey, like, you should go get checked out.
Well, people on Twitter are always reasonable.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think also, I mean, I saw, I think 2 people today on Twitter who surrendered their day 2 stacks in tournaments.
Oh, wow.
Because they tested positive, and they said, look, I tested positive, I'm surrendering my stack, I'm not going to play. Wow. That's a ballsy ass move.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I honestly don't know. I like to think that's what I would do, but I'm not sure. I mean, if I had made day 2 of the 888 and I tested positive the morning of day 2, I mean, look, I mean,
So
like
they had symptoms and decided to go get tested, or they just randomly...
Well, I don't know the exact details of how they found out they had it, but yeah, there was...
I feel like
I'm pretty sure at least 2 people who said...
Yeah, I feel like you'd have to be like, have like, whatever, COVID symptoms, and then be like, hey, should I get tested? And then like, should I even be playing this tournament? And then like, then you make your decision.
Yeah, be like, dude, I haven't tasted my breakfast for 3 days.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go see what's going on with my body. I mean, the best thing you can do, honestly, to prevent this and most diseases is to be in good shape. You know, take care of yourself, eat healthy, exercise. Like, Derek, you look great. I haven't seen you in a long time. You lost, what, 20, 25 pounds?
27 pounds. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
That's amazing. What's the secret? How did you do it?
Keto.
Yeah.
It's all about keto.
Nice.
Which is tough when you're a beer drinker like me. Luckily...
Keto whiskeys, or how does that work?
All whiskey's keto.
Oh, okay.
So you can drink as much whiskey as you want when you're on keto, which is
It's lucky.
good unless you're my wife and you have to clean me up off the bathroom floor after my Twitch
Because all you
stream.
had was keto or whiskey all day.
Yeah. I'm like, but honey, I only had non-keto or non-carb whiskey.
I didn't eat. I just had whiskey today.
Yeah.
This is the new diet, right? Like Dr. Atkins, like just lived on chicken wings all the time. He's like, well, at least I don't eat any carbs. And he died at 52. And now Derek's going to just like try to survive on whiskey. Yeah. All right, whatever.
But one thing I did want to say, so, and I know we're going to talk about some hands in a little bit, but so my hand is from the 888 tournament, which I had the good fortune of playing with Clayton for. And this will probably be the last thing we say about COVID. But so I was not sure how I was going to approach wearing a mask at the poker table, because at the Rio, you have the option. You have to wear one when you're walking around the hallways, but when you sit down on the table, you can take it off. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then I sat down at my table, and I was in the 1 seat. So I was right next to the dealer.
The potentially unvaccinated dealer.
Right. The one person who might not be vaccinated in the room. And then the guy who sat down in a 2-seat coughed for the first 2 hours of the tournament.
No.
That's brutal.
So I was like, yep, really good tournament to mask up for.
Yeah.
So I went full mask. And then like an hour later, Clayton sat down at my table and he did not have his mask on. And I was like, I'm just wearing my mask because the dealer is next to me and the coughing guy is
Like
on
I
my
was
left.
judging you? Do whatever you want.
It's not me. It's
Yeah,
him.
no, do I think whatever makes people comfortable. I think masks should be optional. I think in society, even long after we have COVID completely under control, if people want to walk around in masks, in Asian countries they do. Places like Japan, they're wearing masks all the time. I think if, whatever people want to do, I just like having the option rather than some kind of government mandate forcing me to do something that I probably wouldn't choose to do on my own. But I mean, I get it too. I get it. Yeah. But anyway, I've been here for like 6 weeks now, and no one's like coughed on me or sneezed on me. You had really bad luck to show up in the first tournament you play, somebody's coughing on you.
I know. I'm like, really, man? And I think it sounded like I've been around enough smokers to know it sounded like that morning smoker's cough. So I'm sure it was fine. And by the time when you got there, I don't think he ever coughed again, after that point. So I'm sure it was fine.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of in that group where I say, when I come to Vegas, I get sick every single summer. Oh, it's not summer. I always say summer.
We've been saying summer all fall.
I know.
Everybody has.
Yeah.
I always thought getting sick had a lot to do with like when you came in the summer, you're going into the Rio that's 60 degrees, and then you're coming outside and it's 110 degrees.
Yeah.
I thought that had a lot to do with it sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure. And you're coming from a different part of the country, so you're just used to different climate.
The
And
dry air could do something to you too.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people come and get sick every summer, or every time we do the World Series, whether summer or fall, whatever. The November 9 is going on right now.
It's so weird.
It's whatever. But I think that as a chronic hand washer and a person that's like kind of just naturally, I guess, lucky, as I always say, I should knock on wood, but I'm not superstitious, so I won't. I don't get sick every summer, or I haven't really been sick in like 20 some years. And so I didn't really have a lot of trepidation about coming out here, especially once they said I'd be able to play with no mask on. To me, that was like a, pump my fist kind of moment, because I'm like, oh, that's going to make it so much more fun. Right. And as a result, I would spend a lot more time at the Rio than I normally would. Typically, I would play a lot of tournaments at Venetian or Wynn, and I've done some, especially the Mystery Bounty. As everyone knows by now, I love Mystery Bounty as a concept, although I have yet to collect a Mystery Bounty ever in my life. But yeah, so you cashed in the first tournament you played. Congrats.
I did. I am. So here's the thing: if you get your booster shot, it turns out you cash 100% of the World Series of Poker tournaments that you play. Granted, I've only played one,
Right.
but yeah, it was a lot of fun. As we mentioned earlier, Clayton and I ended up at the same table for several hours, and
You had position on me. That's why you said it was fine.
yeah, and I there was some pots I avoided playing with you. Because I think you're a better poker player than me, and you were the one person at the table I knew who was probably a better poker player than me. Also, for the record, Clayton's 3-bet percentage at my table was about 48%.
Yeah.
It's up there.
Yeah, no, I was going off. We had a lot of amateur players at that table. I felt like building pots in position, as Alex Fitzgerald, one of our coaches, always recommends. Like if you have players that their skill level isn't as good as yours, and you have a range advantage, you have a skill edge, and you're in position, build big pots with better hands in position. And that's what I was doing. So in other spots where if I had like an expert player or a talented player on my right, I might just flat and see a flop. Against these guys, I actually want to build those pots and try to, mix it up a little bit. It didn't work out, but I still think theoretically it was the right strategy. But you won the last longer against me because you cashed and I didn't.
Yeah, I wished in hindsight that we had made a last longer. I wouldn't have liked my odds at one point because I think you were up to 120 or something pretty quick, and I was at like 40, and then it reversed itself. And I just had some things go right at some point in the tournament. I ran a pretty good bluff, which is the hand I'll talk about tonight. And then I happened to get aces against tens.
Aren't you worried about ruining your nitty image by talking about a bluff on the podcast?
I know. I'm just so proud that I actually bluffed. There were like 3 points where I was like, Clayton would 3-bet here. And I just folded. I'm like, no, I don't have the heart. I don't have the heart to 3-bet.
You know, a losing strategy for poker is to ask yourself, what would Clayton do? That is not smart. All right, so let's go to you now, Dylan. You've got your Chicago Bears shirt on. Are you from the Midwest?
I'm from Illinois, Champaign, not quite Chicago, but every time we tell somebody that we're from Illinois, it's always, oh, Chicago?
Yeah.
No, it's not quite Chicago.
Yeah, well, that's like I live in New York, and people know about New York City. There's like another huge state that no one even knows. Yeah. So I get that. Yeah. So are you living here in Vegas now?
I am here in Vegas. I've been here for 10 years almost, I think. 9 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, just grinding poker online mostly, and then when all the tournament series come around, I'll play those. Yeah.
What have you been firing in the last month or so?
So for WSOP and like whatever, Venetian and Win, anything like 1,500 buy-in or so and under is what I've been playing.
All right, so you're staying in your bankroll. You don't go crazy. Don't get too excited that all these big things are going on in town. That's good, smart. Bankroll management, so important. Yeah. So how do you arrive at that 1,500 number? Is that based on, what we have in the bankroll, or is it just based on what you perceive the skill level of the opponents above that level to be, or is it some combination?
So I was going to say, I think bankroll-wise, it's pretty wise to stay around there and under. And then as far as skill level, also I think once you get to so it goes from like 1,500, 1,600s to like 2,500s and like 3Ks and 5Ks. So I think once you get over that 1,500 level, 1,600 level, then it starts becoming like more pros, less recreational players. So I think under that level is a lot softer fields overall.
I agree with you 100%. And in the old days, that I can remember when I really started getting into poker, like in the early 2000s, a $5,000 buy-in, you'd have like a week of satellites leading up to it, and all the amateur players would jump into those satellites trying to get a crack at the $5,000 tournament. Nowadays, I think people have wisened up and they've just realized, like, even if I manage to satellite into this thing, I'm going to be so over my head with the killers and the robots that I'm going to be up against. I'm better off just like buying directly into like the nightly deep stack or whatever it is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you have the right game for it, you're patient and don't do anything super crazy, I think you can do well in some of these 3Ks and maybe 5Ks. But you don't need to. There's so many tournaments going on in Vegas that like you can avoid those tournaments, play something a little bit smaller, have a good time, and play your game and be comfortable and not stress about it, and hopefully make a deep run. There's so many different tournaments to play. So
well, now as I'm wrapping up my World Series of Poker, I'm leaving later this week. I cashed in the shootout, the $1,500 shootout, and I cashed in the Deep Stack Championship, the $800 buy-in Deep Stack Championship or whatever it was. And nothing else. So, Dylan, give me some good news. What have you done?
Nothing super crazy, actually. I started off pretty good again, and I cashed a few my early tournaments. I got deep in, I can't even remember. It feels like so long ago. I got really deep in the Super Turbo, which, you got to run good in those.
Is that the WSOP Super Turbo Bounty?
Yes, WSOP Super Turbo Bounty. It was I think it was a 1K with $300 bounty.
That sounds right.
And I think I got 3 bounties and finished in the top 100 out of 1,500 or 2,000 or something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty deep. That's a nice chunk of change for that. Right?
Yeah, it was a fun one. And my bust hand was like, it was pretty standard. I had like an average stack and shoved a suited ace and got called by a big blind who like tanked forever and called me with like King Jack or something and turned to Jack when I turned to flush draw. And, it's just kind of one of those spots where you just have to run good. And then
here's the key. When you're about to shove with your ace and the guy has King Jack, you got to start talking to the poker gods first and say, are you going to do it to me? Are you going to hit him with the jack, or am I going to win this pot? And then based on what the poker gods tell you, that's how you know what to do. That's the skill you have to master. So you can move up to the higher stakes.
Yeah, I forgot to ask and say my prayer before he called. I thought he would fold, so I didn't. I didn't think I had to do anything.
And he thought about folding, didn't he?
He tanked for a while. But yeah, it was just one of those, standard flips that you just have to win in poker tournaments. They come around, every so often. Unless like you're in the main event where they're super deep right now and you just play well. And
even the main event, though, as someone who's had some pretty deep runs in that, at some point you do have to win a coin flip. It's just you can't make it to the end.
Yeah. I mean, when I was at the Wynn today playing the Mystery Bounty, they had the Poker Go feed up on the TVs. I mean, Chance Cornuth got it in with Ace Queen of Hearts versus Aces and just flopped the nuts.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that happen throughout a tournament like the main event or any big, multi-runner field that you never really hear about. Like the winner maybe played this hand really sick or did this big bluff or whatever. But also along the way, like 3 crazy things happened that they won where maybe they quote unquote weren't supposed to. That you never really hear about.
You kind of like forget about those spots sometimes if you're running so good, and you win those big like not even flips. Like I don't even know what their percentages are. Ace Queen of Hearts versus Aces, but like
it's about 6%.
Is it 6? That's it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe 7.
But yeah, Chance is no doubt like a top player in the world.
Of course. Yeah.
But I was watching the stream as well like all day and yesterday, and he's run really good in the all-ins, and you have to
as soon as you don't run well in an all-in, then your tournament ends, right? If you're all in, you need to. That's the time when you need to hit it, But that's the thing. Like everybody says, well, this guy's the best in the world. That guy's one of the best in the world. That guy's one of the best in the world. And the great equalizer about this beautiful game that we're all obsessed with is that even those players are just like you and me. They're 50-50 sometimes. They have to suck out as a 6%. That happens to everybody. Those are the moments where it's like, at this point, it doesn't matter which one of these guys is better at poker. It matters who gets lucky today. And that's what happens. Now, since you brought up the Wynn, I want to talk about the Wynn. Isn't it lovely? I mean, isn't it wonderful?
As soon as I walked in the door, you're literally greeted by like trees with lights and it's like nice light in the room, and it reminds me why I love going to play there so much. It's become almost a cliche how much better the Wynn is than every poker room in Vegas.
It's miles above.
Unless you are willing to sponsor this podcast and you have a poker room in Vegas, hit us up. You'll be the best poker room in Vegas.
Sahara, Las Vegas, #1 on the Strip. All right, and since you brought up Chance, we have to talk about the talk of the day is something that happened over the weekend. I don't know if you guys saw the clip or not, but Chance has been maligned a bit for, I don't know if people want to say he was angle shooting or doing something. The way I watched the clip several times, and what I saw him do is there's a bet, and he's facing a bet, and he kind of moves his cards out of the way, counts out the exact number of chips to call the bet, and then takes those chips and moves them slightly to the left. Not a forward motion like he's going to put them in the pot, and while he's doing so, he's staring at his opponent and trying to get a sense of whether the opponent is happy or sad about getting called. Derek, why don't you go first? Your take on it.
So when I watched it, I've seen a dozen of these sort of moves over the years in poker, and I've seen many more that I was more offended by than this one.
Oh, yeah. No one's saying this is the most egregious or whatever, but is this one bad? Is there anything here?
It's sort of the classic, it's within the rules. It's not something I would ever penalize anybody for, but if I were to play at the table, I'd be like, dude, but come on, you know what you're doing, right? And it just comes down to like, do you think you can exploit every little spot to your advantage by taking advantage of every little situation and doing things that won't get you penalized but will get you an advantage? Or would you rather just play straight up poker? I think he knew exactly what he was doing. Do I think he did anything wrong, quote unquote wrong? No.
Anything scummy?
Slightly scummy.
Okay. Dylan, your thoughts?
So I was actually watching Chance today, and while I don't know this exact hand that you're speaking of, I did notice that he the way he positions his chips that are just sitting there while he's not even in a hand are like pretty far out in front of him, and his cards when he does get his cards, that I thought it was kind of odd. But today I saw him count, like he was in a spot where he checked in his opponent bet and he was counting out his chips. But today, and this may have had something to do with yesterday.
Oh, he knows what people said about yesterday. Yeah.
Exactly. So today he counted his chips off well behind him, behind his cards and his other chips to the other side. So this may have had something to do with yesterday. And I noticed that while he was counting them out, he was staring at his opponent. And that kind of goes along with what you're saying, that that he looks at his opponent while he's doing it, but he in no way did it in a way to like angle shoot or anything like that. But I did think it was odd that the way he stacks his chips while they're just sitting there is like not normal, and they're
more
like
in front of the
out.
cards, yeah,
They're
and spaced out, yeah.
Spaced out and like well in front of like rather close to the betting line, I would think, but I don't know the exact hand you're talking about, so I'd have to look at it again.
I can't believe you haven't seen. You must not be on Twitter, but you are busy with your girlfriend, so maybe she's been keeping you busy. Do you have any thoughts on Chance? Is he a scumbag or not? Do you want to share your thoughts, girlfriend?
No.
Okay, yeah, she's not gonna. I didn't think she was gonna chime in. I didn't think she was gonna chime in. Yeah, I mean, if Dylan hasn't seen it, it's unlikely that she has. All right, well that's okay. At least we heard her voice.
I'll just sip my cocktail.
All right, yeah. By the way, this beer is really good. All right, before we move on to you guys, I want to hear your hands. My take on Chance, and I know that this is not the apparently the popular opinion. I have 0% problem with what he did. I think that getting reads on your opponents is part of live poker. I mean, sometimes I look like I'm going to fold my cards, and I want to kind of get a sense of whether that makes my opponent happy or not. Sometimes I'm going to pretend or imagine I'm trying to make my decision, and then I'll grab chips, and I'm like, I'm watching him. Like, is he happy that I'm grabbing my chips? Does he not want me to grab those chips? And I think that part of the live game that differentiates it from the online version is that we have to be aware of what we are giving off and what we're perceiving. I made a big decision today in the mystery bounty at the win, trying to figure out whether my opponent had a busted flush draw or the nuts, because his bet was polarized. It was one of the two. He was staring at me, like trying to look intimidating. He was scratching his neck, which I thought might have been like what we call a calming behavior. Like he's trying to like help ease the stress of the moment. And he was doing things that people typically do when they're bluffing. And so I made my decision partly based on what he was giving off. Turned out to be wrong. He had the nuts, and it cost me half my stack. But when I have a decision in live poker that's really close between calling or folding or whatever the decisions are, sometimes I use the live reads that I'm getting. And I don't think that grabbing chips, it's not like he put them halfway into the pot and pulled them back. He didn't do anything like that, because that is uncool. That is an angle shoot. And in some states, not Nevada, but in some states, any type of forward motion, like in California, they have something called the forward motion rule. If you take chips in your hand and move them forward, not to the left like Chance did in this hand, but forward, that money's going in the pot in California, but not in Nevada. We have the betting line, and there's the reason why. But yeah, that's my take. Like I feel like the only one that actually doesn't have any problem with this at all. And I'm not necessarily like a huge Chance Kornuth fan or anything, but I don't feel there's any angle shoot here. I don't think it's scummy in the slightest.
Yeah, I should mention, like, you asked me, do you think it's quote unquote slightly scummy? And I said yes. I don't know that slightly scummy is necessarily bad, like, or something that should be vilified. Like, there's like street gamblers, and there's, like, people do things at the poker table to get an advantage. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's that they should be vilified for it or crucified for it.
Some people are comparing it to like a pump fake in basketball. Should it be illegal for me to pretend? Or like in football, sometimes we act like we're giving the ball to the running back and then we throw it. Isn't this the same? Why is it different, Dylan? Tell me.
Wait, why is
this different than in other sports where you kind of try to fake people out a little bit? Why is poker not why does some of the poker community look so sternly against this sort of thing? Now, I'm not talking about angle shoot, like if you hide your big chips behind, like that's like cheating. I don't really see anything wrong with this.
I think people just like when they, like if you're in a big pot and you make a mistake, like if I made a bad read and made a bad call, because of that, they get upset and then they try to like put the blame on you, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want to feel like they made a mistake. They don't want to blame themselves, so they try to justify or blame the other person. Essentially, I think.
Yeah, I think also a lot of people think of poker as like a game of honor, like a game where you respect your opponent. You like everyone thinks of other poker players like that's the person I like. 10 years ago, I used to say I would give $1,000 to a random poker player before I'd give it to a random person on the street because you just always assume the poker player would pay you back. Not necessarily true anymore. So I think part of it comes from that. Like the game is this game of trust and honor and integrity. So when anybody does anything even like remotely across that line, they get kind of freaked out and scared by it.
I agree. And this is what I don't like. I don't like true angles, like hiding your chips or putting in some obnoxious amount and then pretending you didn't mean to when you have aces. Like these are kind of the angles that I think cross the line. Moving your chips to see if your opponent is happy that you moved your chips or not, I don't really have any problem with it. And I'm actually frankly surprised that so many of our brothers and sisters in this world are so offended by it because this is live poker. Like part of the game is trying to get a read on your opponents, not by any means necessary, but to me, this doesn't even approach what I would consider an angle shoot or a scummy behavior or a dishonorable move. To me, this is well within, have you ever had the nuts and somebody bet really big and you look like you don't really know what you should do, and you're agonizing over this allegedly tough decision when you have the nuts? To me, this is no different. He's looking like he might call, and he's trying to get a sense of whether his opponent is happy about that or not. And I think that this is kind of part of the fun of live poker, if anything, is that we're supposed to kind of try to psych each other out a little bit. I'm not in favor of like berating my opponents. Like there are things that are definitely over the line for me. But to me, like moving your chips 2 inches to the left, I can't believe there's such a controversy over it. What do you have there on your phone there, Dylan?
Okay, so this was from today, and Alan Kessler, while I don't mean to give him too much attention that he so desperately craves.
The chainsaw!
Yeah. This was a tweet from earlier today, and he says, just sat down in the 1500. Me and Matt Stout Poker have already seen an angle shoot. So this was a 1500 at the WSOP today. He says the pot has 2,000 in it total from small bets at 100 and 200 blinds. So 2,000 in the pot. Player A bets 5,200, which includes a 5K chip and 200s.
So he's pretending that he meant to bet 700?
Whether player A pretended that he meant to bet that much or not, I'm not sure. Let me read the rest. Okay. The dealer announces 5,200. Player B says 5,200, like question mark, like asking, like 5,200. Wow, And then player A. This is Alan's tweet. Quote: Player A looks nervous. B calls thinking misclick. So I think what Alan was trying to say was player A was trying to bet maybe 700, maybe a 500 trip and 200s. And Alan's argument was that because player A looked nervous, he was angle shooting.
Yeah.
And then Matt Stout replied, "Speak for yourself. I saw someone massively overbet the pot on the river and get paid off. Player A is also wearing a mask, but I guess his eyes look nervous to you.
Hey, you guys know I love Matt Stout. He's been on the podcast a number of times. He does all that great charity work and everything. And I'm sure that this is another question. Like, is that an angle? To me, that's a little bit across the line. Like, if you are overbetting on purpose and pretending that you didn't mean to overbet, the bottom line is, whether you did that and are now acting nervous, or whether you really are nervous because you accidentally grabbed the wrong number of chips, you are responsible for how many chips you put in the middle, and your opponents are responsible for figuring out whether you're doing something a little bit sneaky, underhanded, scummy, angly, or whether you are just a guy that just put, 3 times the pot in there for no reason.
Yeah, I got no inclination that, from what he tweeted, that the player A was angling.
At this point, we're just calling everything an angle to me.
But that's also Alan for you too. Is he'll complain about literally anything. Yeah. He'll find something to complain about for the day, and this was it, I guess. But I had no. I didn't necessarily agree with him that it could have been an angle. Yeah. Player A never said anything other than putting in the chips and, quote, looking nervous. Or
he could just literally be nervous because he fucked up.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like,
I've done it before.
If I overbet,
I've been the guy who put in the 5K chip instead of the 500 chip. I've 100% did it before.
There's not one live player in the world that hasn't made that mistake at least once. You just grab the wrong chip. Yeah. It's usually the 500 versus the 5,000 because they both have 5s on them, and you're thinking about something else.
And I definitely looked fucking nervous. I guarantee you, because it was. I remember when it happened. It was at the PCA, like 10 years ago.
You'll never forget it.
It was one of my first big live tournaments I ever played, and I knew I had fucked up, and I didn't know how to fix it, and I lost the pot. So
did you talk during the hand? Or you're like, oh, I fucked up, or was it like kind of nervous movements? Do you remember?
I remember debating in my head: should I pretend that I fucked up so that they think I'm angling? Yeah. Or should I
just stay quiet?
Should I just And I think I just sat there still face and I drank some from my blue Hawaiian in the Bahamas. I was
That's
just
amazing. To me, this is part of the game. Like, if somebody makes a mistake, we have to be able to figure out whether that person really made the mistake or whether he's angling. Yeah. I would never do that, but I would grab my chips and move them 2 inches to the left to try to get a read on my opponent. I've also picked up my cards as though I'm thinking about folding them without actually folding them, to try to get a sense of whether this is making my opponent happy or not. So at what point do we say, we are not allowed to show emotion or try to misdirect our opponent? This is live poker. Isn't that part of the game, is getting reads, right?
Yes. Just thinking about my my opponent's last couple misclicks, I specifically remember one in WSOP maybe 2 years ago and one at Circuit somewhat recently. My opponents, quote, misclicked, and I actually asked them, I was like, did you mean to do that? And both of them said no, and then I made the wrong decision and was shown the nuts, essentially, both times. And I was like, I looked around the table, and I don't know if anybody really realized what happened, but I was obviously pissed off, and there's nothing I can do about it. But, they were angle shooting, and they're just fucking scumbags.
But do you feel, and I don't like that at all. And just to be clear, I've never done that, the accidental, quote unquote, non-accidental misclick. I don't think that's necessarily a part of my game. That's kind of where I would draw the line between what's scummy and what isn't. I would never do that. But, honestly, do you think that your opponents, having made that overbet, have an obligation to tell you the truth when you say, did you mean to do that, yes or no?
I think they should probably stay silent over lying.
But you asked them a question. Once you open that door, don't they have a chance to walk through it or not?
Yeah, poker players, that is part of the game, yes. But once you deliberately lie, then it becomes an angle shoot. And
so his options, in your opinion, would be to tell the truth or say nothing, but not to lie.
Yeah, I think a better option would be to just be quiet.
Yeah. So even though you ask him a question, you think his move is to not answer you.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't want to be seen as a scumbag to me, maybe he doesn't care about the rest of the table.
I mean, I don't think any of us want that reputation. Do you want to be known as a scumbag?
I mean, Dylan thinks I'm a scumbag, so
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with poker. Believe. All right. Well, that was a pretty interesting, lively discussion about what's an angle and what's not. I think maybe some people will be surprised because I think I'm kind of known as a purist of the game. Like, I love the game and I want things to be a certain way. This chance thing, guys, it just didn't bother me in the least. I think it's much ado about nothing. All right, let's get to Derek Killingbird Tenbusch in the live realm after all these months of playing on ACR and Ignition Poker. You sit down. How did you feel when you first got to the table?
it was really weird. I don't remember if I said this earlier in this podcast or if it was earlier at the bar when we were hanging out. But
He's been drinking heavily, everyone.
I definitely misclicked like 3 or 4 times in the first hour.
And not as an angle.
No.
Were the chips weird to you, like same colors, or what was it?
The thing that fucked me up is that the Crazy Eights is an 8-handed tournament, but we started out technically 6-handed, but we were actually 4-handed, and it just like the dead stacks and stuff were just fucking me up. Like I kept like raising out a turn, like I would bet on a turn. I would fold and then realize there were 2 people who hadn't acted yet because I thought the people were sitting out.
Oh no!
He's like button the 2 blinds are dead stacks and he's folding everything.
I fucked up so many times. It was ridiculous.
Did you see the word "sitting out" on their foreheads? Or anything?
I was like, I kept the thing I kept saying, and I don't know what this quote is from, but I kept saying, "I'm not ready. I'm not ready." like I was not ready to return to live poker at all.
Oh, here comes the girlfriend. She wants to play poker with you, Derek. You want to play heads up with him? Yeah, she likes the sound of that.
Yeah, it took me a good hour and a half or 2 hours to like get comfortable, and then it all reverted back when I went to the Wynn today to play my second tournament, and I was just back to ground zero again. Like I was fucked up again.
All right. So, you have a hand. You already kind of told us it's going to be a bluff, and I think
I spoiled it.
That's okay though. I mean, a nice Killingbird bluff.
You'll know it's a bluff by like the turn, so it doesn't really matter too much.
All right. So, which tournament is this from?
This is in the Crazy Eights. Which,
all right. So it's an $888 World Series of Poker bracelet event with, I think, 3 starting days. Guaranteed first place prize of $888,888. And because they didn't get that many players this year, second prize was only $400,000. And I think ninth place was like $37,000. So this is my kind of structure. It's top heavy. You got to play for first. I hope they put this one on TV because that final table, no one's going to care about laddering. They're going to go for first, which I love to see.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk at our table about, what do you guys think the ICM strategy should be? And I was just like,
Just a little too, I don't know.
Like, I'm just trying to make it through dinner break. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, one step at a time. It's still day one, guys. Settle down with your ICM.
But yeah, so I think this could be interesting because I think you know the villain. He was the guy on your immediate right.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, so it's from our same table. Okay, great.
It was at the table that me and Clayton played at. I believe, in fact, I know you had busted at this point. Sorry.
That's okay. Just pour a little more salt in my wounds. I believe he was Israeli, the gentleman you're speaking of.
Yeah. In fact, eventually somebody asked him about where he was from and stuff, and he did say he was Israeli.
Confirmed.
He was at the point when this hand happened. I knew he was aggressive and very active, but I didn't really have a read on whether he was good or bad.
Okay.
If that makes
so
sense.
let me give a little color on that real quick, not to discuss the hand, but just a hand history to give you guys a sense of who this opponent is. So he had raised and I 3-bet, and the board was Jack of Spades, 8 of Spades, 5 of Diamonds, and he checked and called. And the turn was Queen of Spades, completing the flush and the straight, and he checked and called. And the river bricked off a deuce of diamonds, and he checked and called a pot-sized bet on the river, and he had ace-5. So he won a huge pot from me, where I felt that he was weak, but I guess he felt that I was weaker, and sure enough, his pair of 5s was good. But that gives you a sense of how unbluffable this guy had shown himself to be. So I'm already questioning whether we should be bluffing this guy, Derek.
And so I had actually, it's funny because now that you recount that hand, I remember it clear as day. But when I played this hand, all I remembered was that he was playing a lot of hands. Like his VPIP was probably like 45%.
Which is why I 3-bet him in the first place. Yeah. So, by the way, in that hand with the 3 spades on the board, he did not have a spade, which may have helped him call because he thought that I might be bluffing with 1 spade in my hand, but it's still pretty ambitious just with bottom pair. Yeah. I mean, wow.
Yeah, he was definitely, like, he was playing a ton of pots. Like, I don't know if aggressive is the right word. More like he was just playing a lot of hands.
You can say stationy.
Yeah, I think that's the right description.
Yeah. So, Dylan, when Derek says he's going to bluff a guy that we already know is stationy, what do you think about that?
It's probably a bad idea usually. But then also, like, if you can, like, justify, like, literally any play, like, give me, like, 1 or 2 good reasons why you're doing it, then, like,
That's true. Yeah. Nothing's black and white, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's worth noting that by this time in the tournament, so basically around the time Clayton sat down, I played a couple of hands, but I think my image at the table was pretty tight.
Yeah, it was, at least when I was there. I mean, you had played a few pots, but you weren't anywhere near as involved in everything as this gentleman or I or some of the other players at the table.
Right. So I think my image was pretty tight. So I think I could use that to my advantage. Like, that's one thing that my coach and backer Mark and Ben always tell me, like, you have this reputation of being super nitty from the podcast, from your Twitch stream, so use that to your advantage. Like, take that to your advantage. And maybe using that in a live setting is not super optimal because
they probably don't have a HUD on you.
Yeah, those people don't know me, so it's probably not really that relevant. But maybe in my mind, I thought it was.
That's okay. No, let's not beat you up. Let's hear the hand, and then we'll beat you up.
All right. So we are at the 1,000, 2,000 blind level. I start the hand with 113,000 chips.
Okay, so there's 50,000 in the pot. You have 113, so your M is over 23. And how many big blinds do you have?
No. Blinds are 1,000, 2,000.
Right. So there's 5,000 in the pot, right?
No, because I am under the gun.
Well, there's 5,000 in the pot before you do anything.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
All right, I've had a few beers.
That's
Sorry.
okay. We'll keep up. We'll keep up.
So, and just for the record, Villain has slightly less than us.
Okay.
Maybe 80, 90,000.
All right.
So you have like 55 bigs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I am under the gun 1. I open Jack 9 of diamonds.
Wow. Already stepping out on a limb there. Yeah. Typically a fold, but you have your reasons.
Did you have some drinks?
No. Actually, I had not had a single drink by this point.
Sober Derek opens Jack 9 of diamonds under the
nice. And an 8-handed table.
I think it's fine.
I think actually.
Me too.
I don't want to say this is 100% true, but I'm pretty sure we were 7-handed at this point.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
So it's
all right.
Let's call it a 6-max table.
Yeah, no, it's
Jack's 9 of diamonds.
So we're going to go down to 6 then? All right. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Why don't we just say your head's up? Yeah.
I like to round down.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So I opened Jack 9 of diamonds under the gun to 5K, which is 2.5x. It falls around to the big blind, who calls.
And this is the player that we talked about.
Yes.
Yeah, now you're 3 seats away from him. Second position, as I like to call it. Under the gun +1, second position. I missed that. All right.
I will also not be using M in this conversation.
Okay. No, I do that for all the traditionalists out there. All right.
This is already the best podcast of all time.
I love it so much. All right. So we are in. So there's a fold, and then you.
Yes, there's a fold, and then I open with Jack 9 of diamonds to 5K. Our villain in this hand calls in the big blind. So the flop comes 7, 4, deuce, 1 diamond.
Okay. So we've got 2 overcards. We've got backdoor straight and flush possibilities. Remote as those straight possibilities may be, they are worth mentioning because they give you more cards to barrel. So, for example, an 8 on the turn that's not a diamond, or especially one that is a great card for you to barrel again. Yep. So if we're going to do a C-bet here, we have a plan for what cards we're going to continue barreling and what cards we're not going to continue barreling. Do you agree with that, Dylan?
Yeah. Also, what positions were they again?
I
You're under the gun 1.
I'm under the gun 1. He's in the big blind. So it's heads up.
Oh, it's heads up.
I'm in position.
And I'm sorry,
He was in the big blind. So
he's big blind.
Now I'm in position.
He's big blind.
Yes.
And he checks this flop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, I think this is just like a pretty easy spot to c bet. His defending range is going to be super wide. It's pretty standard.
So I bet 7K into 13K. He calls.
All right. So your c-bet here is a little large for my taste. I would have gone a little smaller, I think.
Yeah.
If there's 13 in the middle, I think there's 13 in the middle. You can just fire 5 or even 4. You can go down from there because really it's like such a dry flop, right? If he's got it, he's got something, he's going to call pretty much any bet. And if he's got nothing, he's usually going to fold. Although, I don't know, that guy, he doesn't fold a lot. So I don't know. Maybe that's why maybe that is an argument for going a little bigger.
Yeah, I don't feel like he was the folding type. Although I'll admit that probably didn't go a lot into my thinking. I think I just kind of, like, I probably clicked the half, in online terms, I clicked the half pot button.
Right, and you're about there, yeah. All
I
right.
was like, okay, half
All right,
pot.
yeah, why
Here we
not?
go.
Yeah.
You're like dealer, spread the pot, and you're like, oh, that looks like 14K.
Half
Here's
of that,
7K.
yeah. Okay. No, I mean it's not a huge mistake, but I think betting smaller on this board is better.
I think you're right. But he does call.
Okay.
The turn is the king of diamonds.
Okay, so now we have a flush draw, and I think this is an automatic double barrel. Dylan?
Yeah, totally agree. 100%.
Yeah,
double.
that's one of the perfect cards for you to fire again because also that king hits your range way harder than it hits his too. So let's go.
Yeah, it's like the perfect. I mean, if I could call it a card that wasn't a pair of mine, it would be like the king of diamonds because it's like the perfect overcard that I could have ace king, I could have king queen.
So you bet 7 into 13 on the flop, so now there's 27K in the pot. Do you remember his stack to start the hand?
Yeah, he said it was about 90,000.
Yeah, I know he had less than me, but not by a lot. So like 90-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we need to start threatening that stack now. I would bet pretty big here on the turn. I really like taking that small bet on the flop, so I would have bet a little bit less than you on the flop. And now here on the turn, I would go close to pot or maybe even a little more because you really want to threaten that stack. Try to like really make him start thinking about, is this my bust out hand or not?
Also, when you do bet really large on the turn, like your opponent's now thinking like, well, what's he going to do on the river? And if he's not in a spot where he can call turn and river, then he's in a really tough spot. So yeah, I agree with betting pretty big on the turn and then probably smashing river too.
Yeah, I put in 30. I put in 30 here.
Yeah, this is something that I think has come up on the podcast a lot of times and also in conversations with better poker players than me. I think I bet wrong on the flop and wrong on the turn a lot. Like, I don't bet big enough on the turn nearly often enough. And I think I don't know how to quantify that for the listeners to apply that to your game, but I tend to go way too small on the turn.
Well, what kind of bet would you want to make here, Derek, if you had like aces or ace king or a set? You'd want to bet big, right? I mean, you'd want to try to get some good value and really start thinking about trying to get your opponent's stack in on the end.
Yeah, especially against this opponent. And I think that's the problem is that I don't think about betting with a really good hand. I just think about betting with the hand I have.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is not that great, but it has some potential.
Yeah.
So I feel like, 40 or 50% seems pretty good.
And to be clear, he is going to get some folds, right, Dylan? I mean, if he bets 40% here, and the guy had like second pair on the flop, there's a chance he'll fold for a small bet here, right?
Yeah, I think there is a chance, but also it also depends on Derek's like river tendencies too. Like if Derek now bets small on the turn where it looks like hey, like I can call this bet, and Derek's not following through on the river, then he has nothing to worry about, right? Like if he can call a turn bet easily and just hope that the river goes check. Whereas, if Derek's betting, if he's following through on the river, then his decision becomes a lot more difficult.
And betting larger on the turn kind of indicates in a nonverbal way to my opponent, like I'm playing for stacks.
I'm not slowing down.
Yeah, I don't expect me to check behind on the end if I'm going to bet 25 or more here on fourth, right?
Yeah, I think I like a bigger sizing, especially because when I do hit, I want to get maximum value, but also when I don't, I kind of want to be able to max pressure him to fold, if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. I think that a bigger sizing, regardless of what happens on the river, a bigger sizing here serves your purpose either way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't love my turn sizing. I'm not mad at it.
All right, what'd you do? What did you do?
Hold on, before you say what you did, I want to stress that like when you're deciding what you should bet, you want to keep your ranges balanced, right? You want to be like, hey, like these are my bluffs and these are my value hands, but I want these two hands to be, I want to choose the same size with both of these hands, right? Like if you had aces, you want to bet whatever, 80%. Same thing with your jack nine of diamonds. You want them to be balanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and honestly, if you don't have aces or ace king, or like your value for betting on the turn when that king comes off is, you're not going to have that many like medium strength hands. Most of those hands you're going to want to check back and then maybe do pot control and possibly have a bluff catcher on the river, right? You're not looking for three streets of value like if you had a hand like 8-7 on a 7 high flop, right? Now that the king came off. So yeah, that's part of the discussion for me is that you're not scared of that king. When you're betting this turn, you're saying, all right, the king of diamonds just hit and I'm not slowing down. You're now representing a more polarized range, which is mostly value, but we can have jack nine of diamonds as one of those, tricky little bluffs in there.
Right. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I like, again, I'm not like, I don't hate my bet, but I would just rather it be a little bit bigger. I mean, so would we say the pot's 22K? 27. I bet 10K, which can look super value-y against certain opponents. I just don't think it will look super value-y against this opponent.
And also, while it can look value-y, we don't really want it to look value-y when we're bluffing. So now when it's the king of diamonds on the turn and it's on a 2-4-7 flop, we want him to fold all his 7x, his 4x, his 2x. We want him to fold all his ace highs. Basically anything that we beat, anything that beats us, we want him to fold, right?
Right, but where we're starting to lose the logic here, and as we're talking through this, it's starting to come around to me, like we do want calls from those hands when we're not bluffing. So if we overbet here, is he always going to fold a 7? Because if so, then this is not a good idea because we can't get action when we have an ace king or aces or something like that. So maybe the really big sizing is no good. I don't know. Like I'm sort of starting to think maybe it's somewhere in between this 10 that you want to do and that 28 or 30 that we were talking about.
I think that getting some of these hands to fold right away on the turn is really good for us. And then, our plan is basically to triple barrel this one, right? We want to follow through on the river here, but we do want some of these hands to fold on the turn. Like if we can get them to fold on the turn, that's great.
Yeah.
But if we have to make them fold on the river, then that's it's kind of the line we're taking.
So I love that we're talking about this because I'm going to change my answer. I want to go bigger than what you did, but lower than what I wanted to do before because I want to be balanced. I want these bluffs to be balanced out by my value bets that do want action. So if we're targeting a hand like ace 7 or 8-7 or 7-6, I want to bet a little smaller to get value from those hands when I do have a king or better, right? So now I think that I don't want to overbet the turn. I'm going to say into 27, I would bet like 17. I think that's the right number.
I think that's a very good happy medium.
Yeah,
I think that feels right.
I think 2/3 to 3/4 is like a really good sizing here.
Yeah.
There's obviously certain hands that just aren't going to fold to a double barrel,
right? Yeah,
like the 7x.
Yeah.
Like it's just not going to fold. But if we can get them to fold, great.
Yeah,
but there's some hands. Yeah. Some hands just aren't going to fold, and then that's why we need to triple. So.
And we want them to call the turn because we're going to shove the river anyway. So, honestly, you win a bigger pot. When you have a 3-barrel strategy, And I think a lot of players miss this part. When you know on the turn that you're absolutely shoving the river, you want that call on the turn because then the pot's bigger when you win it.
In this particular player too, like I don't know that he's the guy we want to go to the river with.
You saw me try, and he called me with a 5.
Yeah, like he was very sticky.
Very sticky. He called me with a 5.
Yeah, and that's why, as much as I would love to claim some weird victory on this hand, which we'll get to, I think it's very questionable. And I think that's a very important thing that we don't talk a lot about on strategy videos or strategy podcasts. When you win a hand, it's very easy to be like, oh, I played that so good. Like, I bluffed that guy, or I got so much value out of that guy. But it doesn't necessarily mean you played the hand right, you know? Like, sometimes you win a hand, and you're like, ooh, I played that so bad. And sometimes you lose a hand, and you go, well, shit, I played that hand so good, I just happened to lose. And that's where you become a better poker player at the end of the day.
The flush got there. The straight got there. And he called me with a 5. And you saw it. You saw the whole thing.
That hand was so sick. I stared at that board for what felt like 5 minutes, even though it was like 30 seconds. I stared at that board and I'm like, wait, what just happened? Because I thought you were scooping all of those chips. I'm like, those chips are going Clayton's way, right? Oh, no, they're going over there. Wait, no, they're going Clayton's way. No, they're not. Wait, no, they're no.
If you couldn't believe it, I really couldn't believe it. Yeah. It was a pretty sick one.
Yeah, that was a sick hand.
Yeah.
And I that was a hand where I was like, oh shit, I might actually outlast Clayton in this tournament.
And then you remember we did not make a bet on who would last longer. I would actually never bet Derek on who's going to last longer because I think he folds too much.
That's how I win last longer. Yeah. I don't make my money playing poker tournaments. I make my money playing last longer, and I just nip my way. Yeah,
last longer pro.
I don't make the money, but I win all the last longers.
Yeah, that's good. He gets like $1 million in action on last longers for every tournament. No, who would give it to him? All right, but no, here he is stepping out, and he's bluffing. So here we go.
I bet $10K, which I think we all agree is too small.
Yes.
He calls.
Okay.
The river is the ace of hearts. So now the board is 7-4 deuce, king, ace. No flushes get there. I guess no straights get there. So
the way the sizing has gone, we don't really have we don't have a pot size bet left with his stack. I think that he's got more than a pot size bet left. So if you shove the river, it's an over bet.
It's probably like 2x pot that he has left, right?
Yeah, I think he probably has like 40.
47
he has probably 40 or no, he has 50 or 60K left.
Yeah, if he started with 90, he's got something like 60 or 70 left. So that's another reason to bet a little bigger on the turn, so you set yourself up for that shove on the end. Right. But the flush did get there. No, it didn't. Nothing got there.
No.
Okay, so then the question becomes, what are we repping if we shove ace king?
Yeah, and so the things he could have, because the flop was 7-4 deuce and the river was ace, so he could have ace 7, ace 4, ace deuce. I don't think he really peeled 2 streets with ace X of whatever, like ace.
It could
jack.
It could be ace 5, ace 3, specifically diamonds, but that's only 2 combos, so not super worried about that. It could still be like some random offsuit, ace 5, ace 3, because you bet so small. So ace X is possible.
That's a fair point, and honestly, it's not something I thought about. I made a bunch of notes here. I think that's fair.
But yeah, mostly if we go big here on the river, the calls will mostly come from 2 pair, right?
Yeah.
Aces up.
And so a couple of notes I have here, and I actually made a note in my notepad on this hand. And I probably should have said this earlier. Villain, so I made notes. Villain has been active, which I think you would agree with.
Yes, very.
And I made a note that on the flush or on the straight, I'm just making up words now. On the flop and the turn, his calls were very quick.
Okay. So really, just like snap call.
Yeah.
Right?
So his
Now he acted quickly in most pots, though.
so
I mean,
his
from
flop
when I played
call-
with him, he was calling very fast a lot.
his flop call and his turn call were very quick.
Okay.
I don't know what that means necessarily, but I made notes of that.
Yeah.
He
Qualified.
Those
He's
are
not
actually
folding.
good notes to make, but ultimately, you're in position with Jack high, so we have to bluff.
Right, but does he need to go big?
Right.
Can he just do another half the
so
pot?
Now we're just worried about like sizing and what we need to choose to get him to fold. What makes sense?
We are allowed to give up, by the way. Like I don't. We have Jack high, and we can show it down and lose for sure.
Right.
But
I think on this run out that we don't. While he can have like whatever, he could have ace-7, ace-4, ace-2s. While he can have those hands, like I think we just have to bet. Like he does have a lot of just 7x.
yeah, we can't make it easy on him to win this pot with that hand, right?
Yeah.
There's what 40 something in the
And
pot.
we don't. I was gonna say we don't need to bet big.
Okay.
We don't need to bet big.
Now we can do half the pot.
Yeah, I don't think we need to bet big.
Like
There's
20s
47 in the pot, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we said?
Yeah. So let's say bet like 20, 25. That's okay.
Yeah,
right?
like 20. I
Yeah.
was thinking 28.
Because I feel like now at this point, he either was there, got there,
Yeah.
or has shit.
Yeah, a lot of times he's going to have like a medium strength hand. Like I feel like a lot of his range is going to be like top pair on the flop, middle pair on the flop.
Like
that now,
6-7 off.
yeah, hands like that, and it's tough to call when there are two overcards now, especially if you make it hard on him.
Yeah. So we decide to bet 22K.
I like that.
I like the sizing.
He tanks for a long time and eventually folds. And spends 15 seconds saying, "Show me the bluff. Show me the bluff. Show me the bluff."
You gotta show him.
You
right?
did not show him, did
I
you?
wanted to so bad.
No,
then-
Dylan, talk about why you want to show.
We just have to. I think if he tanks that long, and it's like, I mean, it's good for your image. I think it's good for your image.
Yeah, I wish I had, and I didn't for the longest time, and then at some point he's like on his third show me the bluff. I was like, all right, I'm gonna show him, and then the dealer pulled my cards. He pulled my cards in. I couldn't show him. I was like, damn it, I couldn't show him.
We don't have all day here. We got to get to the next hand. So yeah.
I honestly think he had a 7, and that was the right sizing because you can value bet some king X with that sizing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go like 30 plus, then it's probably only leaning towards like ace X and
Misdraws.
and bluffs.
Yeah.
But with that smallerish sizing, you can have king X for value. So yeah.
Well, I love it.
I was super proud of that hand.
Well, you should be. You know, you're not a huge bluffer. You know, it's good that you stepped out of your comfort zone. You opened from second position with the Jack-9 suited. And even at a short-handed table, that's impressive for Derek.
7-handed, maybe 6-handed, who knows?
He doesn't know. Maybe it was heads up. It might have been heads up. We don't know. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. We're already over an hour here, so it's just so much fun to like hang out and drink a beer and talk shop with you guys. I love it. So, Dylan, what's next for you? Are you going to be hanging out in Vegas for a while? Or what's going on? Are you traveling at all?
Well, I live here now, so I haven't done much traveling lately, though I did tell Leslie that I wanted to make a trip. I haven't told her where yet.
That's the aforementioned girlfriend.
Yes. In January for poker, but for fun, too.
I can recommend Australia. Beautiful.
Okay,
yeah.
that's a little more than...
Melbourne, the Aussie Millions, highly recommend.
Speaking
Go play in the Aussie Millions. It'll be
Have you
fun.
heard of like Iowa Council Bluffs?
Oh yeah, the Quad Cities are great. The ladies love Tunica. I can tell you that for sure. Yeah, Tunica. She loves Leslie.
A trip and one that I've wanted to take, and I'll tell her about it soon. So.
Oh, cool. Cool. Well, maybe when you do that, you can share it with us, and then we can announce it. Because I know all of our listeners are like, "Where's he going to take her for the special trip?" He hasn't announced it yet.
Okay. Well, should I just say that where now?
Are we gonna break it? Are we gonna break
Breaking
the news?
news,
Right now?
Leslie. Do you want to know, or do you want it to be a surprise?
No. I'm find out at the same time you guys are.
All right, let's go.
Okay, it's not super. It's just a poker trip, like I said, and for fun. But it's MSPT in San Diego, and I've heard it's great.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that's a good one.
We haven't actually been there together, so I love San Diego. I've been there a few times, and I love it. I've never played poker there, but I think it'll be a really fun trip, and I hope we can plan it out. And make it
You
fun.
hint at your girlfriend, like, I'm going to take you to Council Bluffs for a poker trip. We're going to Iowa, baby. And then you raise the stakes and go San Diego. Everybody loves San Diego. Beautiful city, beautiful beaches, great poker. Oh, you guys will have a blast.
The
Wow.
dog will love it. She loves the beach, so
That's
yeah. Hopefully the weather's good. Actually, I was a little concerned about that.
okay.
A little concerned about the weather.
I have a special connection with Opal. She was our she was our house dog for many years in the TPE house.
Oh, no way. Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Absolutely.
Absolute legend of the game. Absolutely the coolest person to ever live in our house. Mostly
Not an
because we're
actual
all nerds, but she's pretty cool.
All right. Well, shout out to Opal. Shout out to Leslie. And shout out to San Diego. Good call, man. That's great.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be fun. I think it'll be a good time, and hopefully we can plan it out. You know, the tournament could last 2 or 3 days, but maybe we can make it like a 5 or 7 day long trip.
Yeah, and have some fun. Go to the beach. Enjoy the sights and sounds of San Diego. Sounds great.
You can definitely punt that tournament in like 3 hours.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It could be like a 7-day vacation where you only play poker for like 3 hours. I've done it.
Unfortunately, I think there's like 2 or 3 starting days. So if I can just punt day 1, day 1B, day 1C really quickly, then
All
we can
your
have a fun
nights are
trip.
free.
That's
Yes,
it.
exactly.
That's it. Well, this is a lot of fun, guys. Derek, tell everybody what's going on with the with my favorite website, tournamentpokeredge.com.
Yo, so guys, you need to go check out Tournament Poker Edge. We got new series from Andrew Brocus. We got new series from Danny N13. Just uploaded a new series. I miss that
Whoa,
guy.
Noseworthy. Noseworthy's
I
back.
know. We have that guy has not come to America since even before COVID. Like a year before, he's like, "Fuck it, I'm out. I'm not coming."
He's in Canada.
I'm not coming
It's
back
like
to
20 miles
America.
outside of America, and he just
I know.
hasn't been.
Yeah, he's like, no, I'm good. So check out that series. New series from Colin Moshman as well. And can I do a shout out for my charity stream?
Please do. Please do.
All right, you guys. I'm doing a very special charity stream on November 30th. That's Giving Tuesday here in America. I do this every year. This is my 7th year.
The Beagles.
Yeah, we're doing a very special charity stream for Triangle Beagle Rescue. We've raised about $17,000 over the last 4 or 5 years. We're hoping to raise another $3,000 this year. So twitch.tv/Killingbird. Just come hang out. You don't even have to donate money. Just come be there and support the stream. I would love it if you would do that.
Check him out on twitch.tv/Killingbird. And we love the Beagles.
And I actually had my very first stream viewer who adopted a beagle from Triangle Beagle Rescue.
Oh, that's awesome. Everything comes full circle. By the way, guys, if you want to sign up for a TPE membership, you can get $10 off of your first month using the promo code podcast. And does it have to be all caps or not? I'm not sure.
It can be upper or lower.
Can I mix them up like a large O and a
you
big
can do
C?
the whole, like,
All right.
upper lower thing.
Case insensitive, and you will save $10 off of your first month at tournamentpokeredge.com. So for everyone here at TPE, for everyone here at the fabulous Rio All Suites Hotel, Resort, Casino, and Spa, and the closed pool, and for and for Opal, and for Leslie, and for Dylan, and for Derek, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas, please. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Lock in intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Hold the face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Hold the face, with me. I love it. Russian roulette is not the same without a gun. And baby, when it's love, it's not rough, it isn't fun. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. Can't read mine, no she can't read